Hello, everyone. I see the wheel of processing. So I must be going live right this second. Hello, everyone, again. This is Rocío. I'm one of Kathy's coaches, and today's Level Up Live comes to you from me. So today's topic is going to be about brain dumping to create focus, manage anxiety, and prevent burnout. Brain dumping, let's just jump right in. Brain dumping is one of my favorite techniques. I use it a lot, and depending on how you focus your brain dumping, it can actually tackle many of the issues that we may be facing, particularly related to our writing, but not only related to our writing. So that's another reason why I like brain dumping because it can help a lot with every aspect of our lives, not just the writing, but really with the writing. So in this level up live, I'm going to um, particularly focus on three main things. And those are going to be why brain dumps are important. And I'm going to cover the very basics of any brain dump that you may have because there are quite a few variations. And then lastly, I'll go into detail on how to do one, and I will use one particular example. So this level up live on brain dumping and using it for a various number of things is going to be of particular use if you are feeling maybe a little stressed. And I laugh because, it's a very stressful year for most of us, if not for all of us. And this feeling of being stressed can make you feel a little unmotivated for your own writing. And so brain dumping can help with this. This technique is also good if you're feeling that sometimes it's hard to and difficult to concentrate. Let's say that you're planning your writing time and you're just about to start writing and you just can't make yourself do it because you're just too busy in your head. And so brain dumping can help with that as well. And also, if you feel exhausted, whether it's mentally, emotionally, or physically, sometimes a good brain dump can help and relieve those feelings. Oh, I see notifications, but I can't see the chat. So, all right, I'll check the chat later in case that was it. And so, something else that I wanted to point out is that if you are feeling exhausted mentally, physically, emotionally, that is something that relates to burnout. And so, we want to do our best, use all the tools that we can to make sure that we avoid that. Because this year, particularly, can make it prone for us to go in that direction. And so let's do a little bit of let's cover a little bit of the history of brain dumping. From my records, the most popular approach is the one used by David Allen's Getting Things Done. However, many of the variations, because there are many kinds of brain dumps, actually come from work in psychology. And this work found, or actually various references that I found, they argue that students writing down their emotional experience show improved GPA, lower stress levels, improved working memory, and more. And I will put, once we finish with the live, we'll put all the references on this kind of work and also some really interesting uses for brain dumping that I found online. And so, in a nutshell, there are many approaches on how to do a brain dump in many variations, and they all have a specific use. So let's jump into the three things that I really want to make sure that I cover in this level up life. I'm going to reiterate why brain dumps are important. And that is because of, again, three main reasons. I try to break things out into three, and that is Kathy's print on me to make it um, more digestible. So the first one is going to be the brain dumps can help us clear our minds. And so if we clear our minds, we can, it's easier for us to focus and even sometimes create that focus and then be able to work on the tasks that we have at hand. So, for example, and this is an example that I give a lot because I see it a lot with our clients, is that say you're about to start your co-writing session and you're with your writing buddies and you're ready to go and you just can't focus and you cannot write. If you do a quick brain dump and it doesn't take more than a few minutes, especially if it's just to clear your mind and allow you to write, then you do that and then you can jump on your writing. Another reason why brain dumps are going to be helpful is because by removing all the clutter that we have in our brains, whether it's on a piece of paper or maybe on a digital piece of paper, it can help decrease anxiety. And that's something that's really important because as we decrease anxiety and as we decrease stress levels, that can also help us prevent burnout. And so those are three of the main reasons why I think brain dumping can really help us. And again, not just for our writing, but definitely a lot for our writing. Let's cover the basics of a brain dump. And like I said before, there are many variations, there are many kinds, and depending on the focus, they can tackle different things, but they all are tied they all cover the same basic information, and they all should be looked at and used from the same point of view. And that is dump first, just dump it out, no judging. And if you analyze later, you decide what in those items gets to get done and the priority of those. And so, having covered all that, let's jump in. And I only have 5 more minutes or so to give you an example, something tangible on how to do a brain dump. And I chose to do a general brain dump because I figured that that would be something that you could easily take and make and transform into what you need. So, to do a basic brain dump, a general brain dump, first get a piece of paper or a spreadsheet, and each of them has its place. So, don't be afraid to use a digital spreadsheet or a digital paper because that can also be helpful. However, if you're into paper, just go for that. So, get a piece of paper, physical, or digital, get a timer. You need a timer, and you're going to set it for 10 minutes, no more than that. You're just going to use it to guard that space for 10 minutes and write down all the things that come to mind. I like to do, if I use a spreadsheet, I like to kind of like go one line at a time, so all in one column. And again, you're gonna write all of this down in those 10 minutes, not even looking at what you misspelled, no judging, no thinking. You're just gonna dump it all out of your brain and leave it there on the paper. Once you finish that brain dump part, then you can set that aside. And I know that can sound scary because then you're like, what am I supposed to do with all this? But really, what you want is just to empty your brain so that you allow the space to be able to focus on the task that you need to do. So, for this general brain dump, if you were about to start your writing session or reading or some other task, um, you do the brain dump, you put it aside, and you get to that task. And then later you can go back to that brain dump and analyze it because there's beauty in the analyzing part. So once you finish your task, you are going to start analyzing your data by doing the following. You are going to first take a quick look at the brain dump that you did, and you're going to try to organize it into 3 or 4 categories. I suggest no more than that because the more categories you have, the more time you're going to spend, and you really just want to get a preview of where they fit. The typical categories that I work with are work, home, feelings and emotions, and then an other category. And if you use paper, you can use highlighters and assign a highlighter color to each category. And if you use a spreadsheet, you can use numbers 1 through 4, and each number would go to a specific category. Once you figure that out, what categories you're going to use, then you can actually look at your brain dump list and use the highlighters or use the numbers in a second column to categorize all of the items that you dumped on the piece of paper. If you use the spreadsheet, and that's why I like spreadsheets, you can quickly sort things and that saves you time. And that's something that I really like to do, try to save time where I can without compromising quality. And so in this case, a brain dump on a spreadsheet is useful. However, if you use paper, that is perfectly fine. I actually like paper a lot too. And again, it has its own place. And so with the highlighters or with the numbers, you're going to start separating those items that you just brain dumped into the 3 or 4 categories that you decided to do in the previous step. Then, once you have them in categories, you're going to criticize your list. And this is where the fun starts because the first thing you're going to do is look at the lists that you wrote per category, and you're going to ask yourself whether those are things that you need to worry about or that you need to do. And if they're not, you're just going to cross them out. And that's it. Cross them off your list. Done deal. Of the items that you have left, you have to remind yourself to let some things go. Some things are just really not important. So you cross them off. Once you have the items that you have left on your list, you are going to make a note and write delegate next to the items that you should or could delegate. And again, that could be a little tough sometimes because we want to do it all. Sometimes we feel like we need to do it so it gets done. But just really being critical, look at that list and say, all right, these things, buy toothbrushes for the kids. I don't have to do it all. Maybe someone else can do it. Maybe, your partner, or maybe the kiddos are big enough that they can do that. Perhaps organize this event for the family. Maybe others can chip in, and perhaps do this data analysis. Maybe a collaborator can take care of that. You don't have to do it. So you're going to delegate. All the items that you now have left from your list, you're going to circle the tasks that can take 15 minutes or less and keep those circled and just leave them there. If you're using a spreadsheet, you could probably just put an X and you know that those are the ones. Or not an S. You can put pick another number, put a letter, and then maybe S for short. And then after that, of the items that you have left, you're going to put a star or an asterisk on the top three items that must happen. And this is top three items for the whole thing, not per category, just for the whole thing must happen so that you are happy, so that you are less stressed, so that you know that you are making progress on what you're doing. Then you're going to use your calendar. I kind of like my calendar, so it is the part that I actually enjoy. And you're going to schedule when these must happen, three items need to happen on your calendar. Ideally, you do them within that week, but sometimes that's not realistic. It really depends on what you put in there on the list. The point is that you're going to put them on your calendar. You're going to commit to dedicate X amount of time with a little bit of cushion because some things just always take longer. And then those are going to get done in that way. You're also going to assign some time in your calendar for the items that you wanted to delegate or ask someone to do for you. And so if you put that on your calendar, then you guarantee that, the 4 or 5 items or maybe the one item that you put in there as delegatable is going to be done, delegated on that specific date and time. And then your 15-minute tasks, or less than 15 minutes, they can all go. They can either stay in the same spreadsheet that you use or on that piece of paper. The key is that you're going to have a list that you're going to be able to access anytime you have any extra time. Say you finish the meeting early and you have to go and make dinner in like 20 minutes. You can take one of those 15-item lists and get it done. And ideally, you can put a priority on them so that way you feel less stressed and happier if you start with the ones that are really high priority. All the remaining items from your list are going to be there and available for whenever you plan specific parts of your project. Perhaps you do a brain dump that is just for a project, and then you can look at those items on that work category and see how they fit into that one project brain dump, whether they need to be done or not, because this is something key. You should not be afraid to at some point read your list and your brain dump and say, this is actually something that I don't need to worry about anymore or any longer, or maybe I actually need to delegate this one. I didn't think of it that way before. And so don't be afraid to just cross off things from that list of the remaining items because they just have to go. And then you can rinse and repeat. You can do another brain dump as needed. So that is a very specific example of one general brain dump. Again, there are many kinds. There are the ones that I actually enjoy that I have been using a lot lately because of all the situation with the additional stresses, social, and also because of COVID. Feelings brain dump, that's been very useful, and also a fear dump, which it's a fear brain dump, but I just call fear dump. So there are many kinds, many ways to do them. This is just one little example of how I use a brain dump for a general purpose. So let's recap before I sign off. Brain dumps are important because they help you clear your mind. They can then allow you to focus on a specific task at hand. They can decrease anxiety by removing the clutter in your brain, and by decreasing this anxiety and the stress levels, you can also help prevent burnout. And that is key and important, especially for this very intense semester that's coming up for most of us. So no matter which variation you use or which brain dump variation you use, the key in using this technique is going to be to dump first, no judging. And also when you analyze it, if you analyze it later, you don't have to analyze all the brain dumps. If you analyze it later, you decide what takes priority. And lastly, we went into detail on how to do a general brain dump and many other, there are many other ways to do brain dumps. The idea is that depending on how you focus that brain dump, it can help you tackle specific issues. I would put references in the comments section for you to browse, and there are many others. I'm just gonna put a few. Yeah, I have like 3, and then that's gonna be it. If you have any questions, let me know. You can tag me in here in the comments, and I will come back and answer. I'll talk to you later. See you next Tuesday at noon Eastern time. Bye bye.